A creator hid alone in the dark for millennia, saying nothing. One Mogu finally found him and demanded to know why. The answer had broken one of them and would crown the other. And so, the story begins. Hey, Leora.
Hey, so last episode we left the Mogu holding the veil against wave after wave of Mantid. Century after century, that cycle kept resetting.
Right. The whole attack, retreat, come back stronger thing.
And through all of that, the Mogu were dealing with something else entirely. Remember what we said a few episodes back? The curse of flesh isn't just physical. It changes how you feel.
Fear. Uncertainty. Knowing they could die. Something they were never built to deal with.
And when they began to die for real, that terror didn't make them value life. It made them paranoid. Small disagreements turned into blood feuds. Warlords started popping up everywhere. Clans kept splitting apart, and everyone was constantly fighting everyone else.
That sounds exhausting to live through.
It's actually got a name in the lore, the Age of 100 Kings. Because that's basically what it was. Dozens of would-be rulers, each one toppled by the next, over and over. The only thing that ever stopped it was the Mantid showing up every 100 years.
Oh good, a shared enemy. Nothing brings people together like getting attacked.
Exactly that. The clans would drop everything, unite just long enough to survive the swarm, and then go right back to tearing each other apart the moment the Mantid retreated. It's a genuinely bleak cycle, and it's the world this next character was born into.
Okay, who are we talking about?
His name was Lei Shun.
Lei Shun.
Son of a minor warlord, grew up completely immersed in clan warfare. He knew how to fight, he was good at it, he won. But something about all of it never sat right with him. He looked at his people constantly killing each other over scraps of power and thought, this isn't what we're supposed to be doing.
But he stayed loyal to his father anyway.
He did, right up until his father was murdered by someone close to him, one of his own advisors. And the second that happened, almost everyone abandoned Lei Shun. That's just how it worked back then. When a leader falls, you leave before his enemies come looking for you, too.
But some people stayed.
A small handful of loyal soldiers. And here's the interesting choice. Lei Shun didn't try to get revenge, didn't try to rebuild his father's power. He just walked away, went into exile, spent his time wandering, thinking about everything that was broken about his people.
That's not what I'd expect from a warlord's son.
No, and it's honestly part of what makes him such a compelling figure at this stage. He's not power-hungry yet. He's genuinely troubled. And eventually, his own thinking wasn't enough anymore. He wanted real answers. So he went looking for someone the Mogu barely even believed existed anymore.
Their creator.
Ra. Except by this point, generations of Mogu had reshaped the name into their own tongue. They called him Ra-Den. Master Ra. Most Mogu assumed he was either dead or just a myth. Nobody had seen him in centuries. But Lei Shun believed there had to be a reason for all of this suffering, a plan, maybe even a test.
He wanted to believe it meant something.
Wouldn't you? After years of searching, he actually found the entrance to a hidden vault buried and forgotten north of the Veil. And inside, sitting perfectly still in complete silence.
Ra-Den.
Alive, real, exactly where he'd been for who knows how long. And Lei Shun walked in, full of questions, ready for wisdom, maybe even ready to be told this was all part of some grand design.
And what did Ra-Den say?
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Not a word. Lei Shun asked question after question. Why do we suffer? What is our purpose? What are we meant to become? And Ra-Den just sat there. Days passed, then weeks, and Lei Shun, understandably, started to lose patience.
I would too.
And then it hit him. This wasn't some deep meditation. This wasn't a god quietly working through a master plan. Ra-Den had just given up.
Oh no.
There was no plan. There was no test. Their creator had simply stopped. left them to suffer the curse of flesh with no guidance, no explanation, nothing. And Lei Shen, who had walked in hoping for meaning, snapped.
I think I'd snap too.
You abandoned us. You abandoned everything the Titans built, and you just sit here? He unleashed everything on Rodden, every bit of anger, every question that had never been answered. And here's the part I find genuinely fascinating. It worked. The silence broke.
Rodden actually responded?
He took Lei Shen to a place called Thundering Mountain, somewhere no Mogu had ever dared climb because it was considered forbidden. Storms raging constantly at the peak. Inside a vault deep within the mountain, Rodden revealed the last lingering fragment of Aman'Thul's power, something he had extracted from himself and sealed away long ago, and showed Lei Shen the truth.
What truth?
Everything. The Pantheon. Gone. Nothing left but fragments. And the world that carried their greatest hope, Azeroth's sleeping world soul, was already riddled with the Void's corruption.
That's the exact thing that broke Rodden in the first place.
That's exactly it. He'd been carrying this knowledge alone, in silence, for centuries, and it had hollowed him out completely. He assumed showing Lei Shen would break him too.
But it didn't.
It really didn't. And this is the turn that really makes Lei Shen stand out as a character. Where Rodden looked at that truth and gave up, Lei Shen looked at it and thought, fine. If our master won't finish what the Titan started, I will.
Honestly, I understand that. Someone had to step up.
So did I the first time I read this. And for one brief moment, Lei Shen almost sounds heroic. But he didn't ask Rodden to guide him. He didn't ask to share the burden. He struck Rodden down, right there, inside the vault, bound him in enchanted iron, and took everything, Rodden's power and the fragment of Aman'Thul.
He robbed a god.
He robbed his own creator. Power beyond anything a Mogu had ever held flooded into him. He locked Rodden away inside that same mountain, ignored every bit of rage and betrayal pouring out of the being he'd just imprisoned, and walked back down to his men.
What did they see?
Something none of them could explain. Rumors exploded across Mogu territory almost instantly. Some said he'd torn the heart out of a god and eaten it. Others said he'd somehow tapped directly into the power of the Veil itself. Some even whispered he was a Titan reborn.
Nobody knew the real story.
Nobody but him. But everyone agreed on one thing. This Thunder King, as he came to be called, demanded every Mogu bow. He claimed the birthright of the Titans themselves, and anyone who refused?
Didn't get a second chance.
He crushed every pocket of resistance. Some enemies died quickly. Others were kept alive in chains for centuries, as living proof of what happened if you defied him. And here's the thing. At first, people followed him purely out of fear.
But that changed.
It did, because Lei Shen didn't just conquer. He started performing what looked like actual miracles. He'd found one of the Keeper's old machines, a device called the Engine of Nalak Shah, buried in the same region north of the Veil. And with it, he started reshaping flesh and stone into new living things.
That's genuinely a god-tier flex.
It really is. And then he did something even more remarkable. He found a way to reverse the curse of flesh in some of his own people, restored what they'd lost. If you're a Mogu who spent your whole life afraid of dying, and this man just offers to give your old strength back,
You'd follow him too.
that's exactly how fear turned into devotion. Under Lei Shen, the Mogu finally stopped tearing themselves apart. The age of 100 kings was over. What replaced it was, in a strange way, a golden age. Prosperity, order, a genuine empire rising for the first time in generations.
But you said prosperity and brutality earlier.
Both at the same time. Because as Lei Shen's empire grew, his view of everyone in it grew colder. In his mind, the curse of flesh was a weakness, proof that flesh and blood beings were fundamentally lesser. And by that logic, anyone made of flesh belonged beneath the Mogu, permanently.
That's a very dangerous conclusion for someone with his kind of power.
It's about to get a lot more relevant, too. because right around this same period, other life was flourishing near the Veil. New races drawn to the same lingering life power that had shaped so much of this region.
Who was rising there?
The Jinyu, fish-like mystics who lived in the rivers and lakes around the Veil. The Hosen, a wild, mischievous race of monkeys who filled the surrounding jungles. And the most thoughtful of the newcomers, a race that would go on to matter a great deal, the Pandaren.
The Pandaren. Finally.
Finally. And they weren't alone either. 4 wild gods took a special interest in this whole region. Xuen, the white tiger. Yulon, the jade serpent. Chi-Chi, the red crane. And Nuzao, the black ox. Together, they're known as the August Celestials.
The 4 many players remember from Pandaria. Ancient guardians honored in temples across the land, whose teachings helped shape Pandaren culture.
The very same. They watched over the Veil, and they were drawn especially to the Pandaren, mostly because the Pandaren's whole culture was built around peace, philosophy, harmony with the world around them. The Celestials taught them, guided them, helped shape that entire worldview.
So you've got divining fish mystics, mischievous jungle monkeys, and a philosophy-loving Pandaren culture guided by literal gods.
All flourishing right in the shadow of a Mogu conqueror who just decided every flesh and blood being on the continent belongs beneath him.
That doesn't sound like it stays peaceful for long.
It doesn't. What happens to the Pandaren, the Jinyu, the Hosen, and to Lei Shen's empire itself? That's exactly where we're picking up next episode, because his story does not end quietly. It ends in a way I don't think you're going to see coming.
Now I have to wait.
You do. But before we close out today, I want to give you something a little different instead of a discussion question. Because Ra Den's big reveal to Lei Shen actually touches on something we've never fully laid out on this show, the deeper structure of the Warcraft universe itself.
Go on.
There are 6 fundamental forces that the whole cosmology is built on. Light and void sit at opposite ends. Light is the force behind beings like the Naru, the ones who help the Draenei escape Argus. Void is the opposite, the force behind the Void Lords, and through them, the old gods.
Okay, that part feels familiar.
Then you have order and disorder. Order is most closely tied to the Titans, and we usually see it as arcane magic. Disorder shows up as Fel, the chaotic power used by Sargeras and the Burning Legion.
So, light versus void. Order versus disorder. What's the last pair?
Life and death. And honestly, every one of these 3 pairs has already been quietly running through this whole show. We just never laid them out as a system. The Naru, the Void Lords, the Titans, the Fel-corrupted demons, light, void, order, disorder. All of it's been on screen since episode 1. Life and death is just the last pair on the list.
Okay, that actually helps a lot. It's less, here's a new thing. It's more like finally seeing the labels on a map we've already been walking through.
Exactly that.
Wait, so where do the actual elements fit into this? Fire, water, earth, air, spirit? The stuff from the Elemental War episode?
Good instinct to ask. They're not part of the 6 cosmic forces. Actually, the elemental system also has 6 forces: fire, water, earth, air, spirit, and decay. The first 4 make up physical worlds. Spirit and decay work a little differently. Spirit is the force that lets living beings connect with the elements and work with them in harmony. Azeroth's world soul pulled in so much of it while she was growing. That's what threw the other 4 out of balance and kicked off the Elemental War.
Right, I remember that. And is decay just the elemental version of death, then?
That's the natural assumption, but it's actually not quite right, and it's worth being precise here. Death deals with mortality, souls, and what happens after life ends. Decay is more about breaking the balance that already exists.
So death is about the dead. Decay is about twisting and controlling what's still here.
That's a much easier way to remember it. And the Shaman class gives us a clear way to understand how spirit and decay stand opposed. Player shamans use spirit to work with the elements and keep that relationship in balance. Dark shamans, enemies we meet in the story, use decay to bind those elements and force them to obey.
So that's why dark shamans leave the land and water around them looking poisoned and wrong. All right, that's it for this episode. Next time, The Thunder King's Fall. And it is apparently a story I'm going to enjoy.
If you enjoyed this one, subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.
If you're learning English, or if some Warcraft terms felt confusing, tap the video link in the top right. Our vocabulary episode explains useful English expressions from today's story, along with the Warcraft terms we mentioned. See you next time.
See ya.